So I'm going to be doing another video of. I'm going to be doing another sorry for that. For some reason it was like, finish setting up your PC. And it's like, I've been using this for multiple months. I finished setting it up. But you know how Windows be. Anyways, I'm going to be doing another part of the writing the Dystopia novel that I wrote as a 12-year-old. Why? Because I think that it's fun, honestly. I didn't expect the last one to get more than 5 views, I'll be honest. I thought just a couple of my close friends would watch it, but I did make it public in case other people wanted to, and apparently 80 people wanted to, which is surprising. Anyways, so I'm gonna be reading some more of that. It was pretty fun. I haven't revisited that story in a very long time, and it's not as bad as I thought or remembered it being. So, also today I'm wearing my Mania t-shirt. Ignore the 2 little stains there at the top. I sneezed. I might be getting sick. Yeah, I don't know how I would be getting sick. I wear my mask everywhere, but also not everybody in my household does, so, if one of them gets sick, it's kind of a small apartment, so we all get sick. Alright, we're picking it up at chapter 4. So here we go. Now, just to recap where we left off, I'm going to yawn real quick. Creamsicle woke me up at 5 a.m. going, and then I looked down and he was just sitting in this chair. He likes to sit in this chair. So I don't know what he was yelling about, but he woke me up by doing it. So sorry if I yawn throughout this. Alright, to recap where we left off last time, Sarissa, we established that this is a dystopia. We established a few silly names of some silly things. And Sarissa met the rest of her little crew she's going to be hanging out with. Sarissa is our main character. And then we've got Grant, Glade, Cruff, and Karma. Grant is the oldest. Sarissa is the second oldest. Obviously, Grant is going to be the love interest, because I felt like I had to have a love interest at the time, and honestly, I don't really have much interest in writing love interests anymore. But, and so we've got Grant, we've got Glade, who is small and frail and pale and kind of, I was thinking of Fluttershy when I wrote her. We've got Cruff, who is great name, and he is a tough old guy, and we've got his twin sister Karma, who is both blind and mute, though not deaf, and yeah, he's very protective of her. So, we left off with them being assigned to pest control duty, which basically means they have to go out and potentially get killed by giant deadly mutations. Alright, chapter 4. The group, under Sarissa's instruction, navigated the forest. Sarissa was surprised when Karma turned out to be very light on her feet and quite agile. How can she move like that if she can't see? She can hear, remember? Plus she can feel. She feels and listens her way around, like she can hear the wind blowing through the trees and feel where the wind is less strong. That helps her know where the trees are, Cruff answered. This was my 12-year-old attempt at diversity and, trying to bring disabled characters into a story, but I was also 12 and didn't bother doing research, so I was like, I can figure out how blind people function. So prepare for a lot of that. They didn't find anything in the south area of the forest, so they moved on to the west. Oh, yeah, we talked about that last time, too. Terrible, terrible planning. For some reason, their plan is go from the south over to the west, over to the east, and then to the north. I don't know why I wrote it like that. All right. The trees were denser there, like someone had tried weaving them together. Whereas the south area smelled like flower bushes in the spring, the west area smelled of rotting plants. The air was thick and stuffy, and Sarissa found it hard to take a single breath. The ground was littered with dead fern and bushes that had been foolish enough to try to grow beneath the tall and twisted trees. The whole place gave off a feeling of danger. Glade whimpered and started walking close to Grant. Cruff stuck so close to his sister's side that it almost looked like they were joined at the hip. Sarissa was at the lead, keeping everyone behind her. Grant huffed indignantly, clearly not wanting to be protected. "Let me take the lead," he said for the millionth time. "No." "Come on, I'm the oldest and probably the strongest." "No." "Let me take the lead." "Quiet," Cruff hissed. He looked at Karma, who was making signs in a panic. "Karma says there's something nearby. Something big." Glade squeaked and hid behind Grant. Oh, God. He walked up next to Sarissa and took out his sword. The others armed their guns. Well, technically Sarissa armed Glade's. What? Okay. They were all completely silent. Without the noise, they could now hear a thudding sound coming closer and closer. The stillness of the air hung around the five like a mudslide and was just as suffocating. All right, playing around with metaphor and simile there. I don't know how effective it was, but playing around with it. Thud, thud. They held their breath. Thud, thud. Those are in bold and italics, by the way, the thuds. Maybe it would go away. Thud, thud. No, it was getting louder. Thud, thud. They could smell the creature now. It stench like that of an animal who's been dead for days. Thud, thud. Then the most horrible thing happened. Grant sneezed. Thud, thud! The creature burst out of the trees. Glade screamed. Grant gasped. Cruff stood protectively in front of Karma, who looked like she would have been screaming if she could. Sarissa stepped back, but pointed her gun at the beast. It was more horrible than she could have imagined. Its whole body was covered in gray fur. It was at least 8 feet tall, a good 2 feet or more taller than Sarissa or Grant. So they're like 6 feet tall? Gosh dang, okay. I thought malnutrition might have prevented that, but alright. Its hands had huge, sharp claws like daggers. Its face was bear-like and snarling. Its eyes were bright yellow. It swiped at Sarissa, who was just barely able to avoid getting turned into ribbons. Grant had tried to dodge as well, but the Changed had managed to grab hold of his leg. He thrashed around, but was unable to do much in his upside-down state. Glade had taken to hiding behind Cruff along with Karma. The boy had his gun aimed at the monster, but hesitated to fire lest he shoot Grant. Sarissa, however, did not hesitate at all. She said, hey, if Grant dies, Grant dies. No, she's just very sure of her aim, but that is a very fun... Sarissa, however, did not hesitate at all. Hey, man. She fired her gun at the creature's shoulder, the bullet whizzing by Grant and ripping his pant leg. Okay, maybe she's not very good at aiming. The bullet found its mark, and the Changed howled in pain. It dropped Grant, who managed to land on his back instead of his head. Cruff now fired as well, aiming at the beast's other arm. While he did so, Sarissa distracted it by using her sword to slash at its legs. Glade stared at Grant, who was still lying on the ground. She was worried he had died until he groaned in pain. Jeez. Sorry, Grant. She wanted to signal Sarissa, or maybe tell Cruff, but they were both busy fending off the monster. Fear made her unable to move or speak. She just stared helplessly at Grant's unconscious and wounded figure. He groaned again. Glade knew what she had to do. She forced her limbs to move and crawled over to Grant. His eyes were half closed, and his right arm was bent funny. Glade didn't know what to do. She wasn't strong enough even to drag him to safety, and she didn't think it was a good idea to wake him up. She lifted her gun up. Maybe she could help get rid of the monster quicker, and then Sarissa could help. She aimed as best she could and fired. She missed her target, the changed shoulder, horribly. Instead, she hit the monster's stomach. She was scared that she had killed it. Why? I think you would want to kill it. She was scared that she had killed it, but the bullet acted like a punch. It couldn't... It couldn't pierce the changed torso skin, but the impact did hurt it. The beast howled in pain again. It turned around and ran deep into the knitted trees. "Sarissa!" Glade yelled. Sarissa turned around and limped over to Glade and Grant. "Sarissa, can you help him? I don't know what to do. I'm useless." "You're not useless. It was your shot that drove that changed away and prevented anyone else from getting too hurt," Sarissa said as she assessed how bad Grant's injury was. Glade realized that Sarissa had taken the brunt of the attack, so that the others had a chance to defeat the monster. Her right arm had a long gash from her shoulder to her elbow. Her left leg was twisted in a way that was definitely not natural. There was a scratch right across her face that started at her left cheekbone and ended at her right. So something like that? Interesting. Okay. "I think he'll be okay. His arm is broken, and it needs a splint, but it's not the worst. The fall knocked him out, but I don't think it did any permanent damage." "Girl, I didn't know how head trauma worked back then." "I guess I just didn't know what a concussion was." Jeepers. Cruff stared at her in astonishment. "He'll be okay. What about you? You took a real beating. Just look at your leg," he exclaimed. He quickly explained Sarissa's injuries to Karma, who made some signs. "You're right, those scratches are going to leave scars for sure." "Okay, Cruff." Sarissa looked at her leg. "I think it's just dislocated. I'm fine," she said, but when she tried to stand up again, her face twisted in pain. "Actually, we might need 2 splints. Does anyone know how to make one?" Cruff shook his head. "Karma was out because you need to see what you're making the splint for in order to do it right." Why did I feel a need to... It's obvious. I could just say Cruff shook his head. That left Glade. I could have skipped the... Okay. "Well, my mother was a doctor. I saw her make splints hundreds of times, but I never made one myself," she whispered. "Good enough. I'm sure you can do it," Sarissa said. She seemed to genuinely mean it. The fact that Sarissa, who had quickly gained Glade's admiration, as one would fighting off a gigantic 8-foot-tall beast, believed in her made Glade feel more confident. "Let's see. We need some sticks, some rope or vine, and something sticky like honey or mud." "Okay," Glade said. Karma made some signs at Cruff. "Are you sure?" "Fine. Karma's going to stay here while I go look for the stuff," he said. He loaded his gun and went off in search of sticks. "It's probably everywhere. You're in the middle of a forest." "Okay." After he left, Glade grabbed Grant's sword and cut the long sleeves off of her shirt. "I think we should bandage that gash on your arm. If it got infected," Glade started. She trailed off, not wanting to imagine if the wound got infected. Sarissa nodded in understanding. She held out her arm for Glade to bandage. Once the temporary doctor finished that, she realized that the scratch on Sarissa's face needed some patching up too. It hadn't been bleeding much more, but it was starting to bleed very, very heavily by the time she was done. Wait, what? It hadn't been bleeding much... Oh, it hadn't been bleeding much before, but it was starting to bleed very heavily by the time she was done. Okay. She took some of the fabric and gave it to Sarissa. "Press this up against your face injury. Make sure to apply plenty of pressure. It should help stop the bleeding, I think," Glade said uncertainly. I did not spell uncertainly right, apparently. Then Cruff came back, holding at least 24 sticks, about 6 feet of vines, and a clump of mud contained in a bowl-shaped rock. "Okay, I got everything. Hurry, we need to get to the east area, he grumbled. Are you okay? He asked Karma in a worried tone. She made a sign that apparently meant yes, because Cruff seemed pleased. I guess nobody knows what a thumbs up is anymore. Glade got to work. It took a couple of tries and quite a bit of pain and apologies, but eventually she had successfully gotten Sarissa's leg and Grant's arm into splints. I'll wake Grant up, Sarissa offered. Before anyone could object, she leaned in close to his ear and shouted, Grant, get up already! She's being very mean to Grant for no reason. This is how I thought flirting worked, by the way. Thanks to, various TV shows and YA novels and such, this is how I thought flirting worked. Okay. Not good. Ah! He screamed as he shot up. After he recovered from the very rude awakening, he glared at Sarissa. Why? She shrugged. Now let's finish up. She's kind of awful. Okay. The day wore on, the sun dipping deep into the sky. Oh, this is chapter 5. Chapter 5. The day wore on, the sun dipping deep into the sky. The group moved much slower now, with Sarissa and Grant's injuries. They saw no more change in the west area. When they finally got to the east area, it was a welcome sight. This was the part of the forest Sarissa knew well. It's where she and Sam went hunting. Sam. She hoped he was okay. He tended to get scared when he was alone for long periods of time. Yeah, no kidding, you left him in a little dirt, hole in the ground that you covered up with more dirt and the corpse of a rabbit. Or, not a rabbit, what was it? Some kind of bird? Anyway. This section of the forest was undoubtedly Sarissa's favorite. The trees were close together, but not in a suffocating way like in the west area. They were just close enough that the tips of their branches touched, creating a blanket of greenery. The sunlight streamed through the leaves and bathed the forest floor in a green tint. Animals could be heard scurrying through the fern and bracken bushes that covered the ground. It was the only truly peaceful place Sarissa had ever seen. She cast a glance at her companions. Glade's eyes were wide with wonder and delight. Cruff was smiling for the first time Sarissa had seen. Karma took a deep breath, enjoying the smell of the ferns and trees, even though she couldn't see them. Again, I could just cut it off at enjoying the smell of the ferns and the trees, because it's been established. I don't need to keep reestablishing. Grant's face was neutral, but he seemed more relaxed and less anxious. Sarissa grinned. It had been all too long since she saw genuine happy faces. It made her heart lighter. I come here every day with my dog to hunt, Sarissa said after a few moments. The others looked at her in surprise. You have a dog? Isn't owning animals illegal? Grant asked. Yes, but I keep him hidden. His name's Sam. You hunt? Here? Both hunting and going outside the wall are punishable by confiscation, Cruff exclaimed. He looked at Sarissa with a mixture of admiration and disbelief. Well, it's either that or starvation. What about the wall? How do you get past it? Glade asked quietly. Getting out of town is easy. It's just dried mud, so I can make footholds and climb right up. For Sam, I have a basket and rope to haul him up. Getting back into town is tricky. I have to climb up a ladder-type thing I carved into the outside of the wall while Sam hops up on some large rocks that stick out of the wall a little. Then I climb back down and catch Sam after he jumps down. Why is she explaining all of this to them? Y'all just met. Okay, she's, I guess, quick to trust. Now all of them were staring at Sarissa in disbelief. Even Karma, kind of. Sarissa started to get uncomfortable. She wasn't used to people staring at her. She preferred to blend in, of course. Well, enough basking and staring. I know for a fact that this area is clear. I come here every day and have never seen it changed. I just figured it would be nice to stop by here, she said. They kept staring. She sighed. If you guys don't stop staring, I won't let you meet Sam. That sure seemed to snap them out of it. They were all very eager to meet the dog. I never specified what breed he is. I don't know what breed he is. They traveled over to the north area. The north area wasn't as bad as the west, nor as nice as the east. It was completely identical to the south. It had skinny trees and lots of flower bushes and single flowers. The trees were so skinny they could have been skeletons. What? Okay. There were exactly 3 types of flowers: rose bushes, daisies, and poppies. They were pretty, but they made the whole forest look red and white. Those colors were Sarissa's least favorite. Why she didn't like red was obvious, but the reason she didn't like white was a mystery to everyone but her. I think it's something like it just makes her feel empty or something. I don't know. I can't quite remember what the logic was behind that. "Let's get to checking," she said simply. Nothing. There weren't even wild mice. I understand why. The flower smell is way too strong to stay here for long, she thought. From the looks on her companions' faces, they felt the same way. Then she noticed something. It was beginning to get dark. Grant noticed as well. Oh, crud. And again, I attempted to make faux cussing for this story by combining the words crud and crap. "We've got to get back now," he shouted. He bolted away. Cruff grabbed Karma's hand and took off as well. Sarissa started running, but the pain in her leg held her back and caused her to fall. Then she realized that Glade was still there. The girl was at Sarissa's side and helped her up. "I'll walk with you. You can't run, and I can't defend myself," Glade said. The 2 started walking as quickly as they could. The other 3 were long gone by then. Still, Sarissa wasn't worried. She could just climb up her ladder if the law drones locked her out. She would just have to make sure she got back outside the wall before they woke up, so they would think she had spent the night outside of town. It would all be fine. It will all be fine. The sun was setting quickly. She and Glade had perhaps an hour before they got locked out. They could make it. They were less than an hour away. They could see the wall now. It was getting closer. Closer. "No!" came a shout. It was Cruff's voice. They got to the gate. It was closed. Yeah, so they got locked out. I'm going to stop it there for now. I don't know if I'm going to read the whole thing, but it might be fun too. I don't think I'm ever going to finish this one, so... But yeah, that's the next 2 chapters, Chapter 5 and Chapter 6 of the... or Chapter 4 and Chapter 5? It was Chapter 4 and Chapter 5. Chapter 6 is the next one of the Sarissa Chronicles. This is fun. It's a good thing to record when I just woke up. So, alright. Bye-bye. Ending Kosa cameo. Say hello. Oh, what are you doing? Oh, my window is open and there's a bird in the tree out there. She was just staring at it. Hello? Creamsicle would also like to say bye. Say bye-bye, buddy. Say bye-bye. 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 Look at this guy. He is so soft. He has the softest little paws in the whole known universe. Alright,